Family banned me from mom's birthday. They laughed until my sister's boyfriend said, "She's my boss." The line they always told me was, "Harper, you are too much." They never meant I was too good. They meant I was too loud, too ambitious, too serious. They meant I was too different from them. I am Harper Blake. I am 32 years old. I am a CEO now. But back home, I am still the problem. Before I tell you how everything flipped, how I stopped being the problem and became the surprise, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment telling me where you are watching from. The text came at 9:02 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was sitting in my Seattle loft. The city lights were on. I was working on a pitch deck for a huge new investment round. I was happy. I was busy. I was successful. Then my phone buzzed. It was my sister, Chloe. The message was short. It was polite. It was a knife. "Hey Harper, just a heads up. Mom's birthday dinner is going to be small this year. Family only. Don't take it personally. Family only." I read the 7 words again. Family only. Chloe sent it. She is the golden child. She always was. She always will be. She is mom and dad's favorite version of the truth. I put my phone face down. Then I picked it back up. I read the message a 3rd time. They did not yell at me. They did not call me names. They did not list my failures. They just did not invite me. That hurt more than any insult could. An insult is a fight. This was just erasure. This was them pretending I did not exist. I sat at my kitchen table. The surface was cold marble. My laptop screen was still bright blue. It showed the financial projections for my company. I built that company. It is called EcoPath Logistics. It is a sustainability tech company. It is worth 8 figures now. When I started it 5 years ago, my family called it my silly little startup. I am the CEO. I am the founder. I am the boss of over 100 people. But back in Atlanta, Georgia, where they live, I am just Harper who dropped out of law school. I am the family disappointment, the family headache. Until that Tuesday night, that text message changed everything. It was the last straw. The camel's back was already broken. This just showed me they did not care about the straw, the camel, or me. It was time to stop pretending I cared about their approval. They had made the first move. They cut me out. I did not have to earn my way back in anymore. I was finally free of the debt. The text message from Chloe about the small, family-only birthday dinner was not the start of the pain. It was just the final receipt. It was proof I had paid for something that did not exist. I had paid for love with effort. The effort was worthless. To understand the text message, you have to go back to the start. You have to go back to the kitchen table in Atlanta. You have to go back to the things they gave Chloe and the things they kept from me. The golden child and the hand-me-downs. Chloe is 4 years older than me. She was born perfect. That is what my mother always told people. Chloe is my perfect angel. I heard that sentence a million times. I was never the perfect angel. I was the child who asked too many questions. I was the child who read books instead of playing outside. I was the child who saw the holes in the family story. Chloe got everything new. When she started middle school, she got a new wardrobe. Mom and Dad took her shopping for 2 days. They came back with bags of new clothes. Everything fit her perfectly. Everything was stylish. When I started middle school, Mom just brought me into the laundry room. She held up Chloe's old clothes. "These are perfectly fine, Harper," she said. "They just need a little mending." "You are good with a needle, aren't you?" I wore Chloe's hand-me-downs. They were always too big in the shoulders. They were always too short in the legs. I was a walking, breathing reminder of my older sister. I was never just me. It was the same with birthdays. For Chloe's 15th birthday, they rented the community hall. They hired a DJ. She got a brand new laptop. Dad made a long, beautiful speech about her future. For my 15th birthday, we had cake in the kitchen. Just the 4 of us. I got a dictionary and a $10 gift card to a bookstore. Dad said, "Chloe has the personality, Harper. You have the books. Use them wisely." He meant, you need those books to catch up. Chloe did not have to work for trust. Trust was her birthright. Once, when I was 10, a favorite vase broke. It was Mom's fancy blue vase. I was in the living room reading. Chloe was running inside. The vase fell and shattered. Mom ran in. She saw the mess. She saw me standing there with a book in my hand. She did not ask who did it. She looked straight at me. "Harper, why can't you be more careful?" I opened my mouth to speak. Chloe shook her head at me from behind Mom's back. A warning. I closed my mouth. I took the blame. "I'm sorry, Mom," I whispered. Mom sighed. "You know better than this, sweetie," she said. She hugged Chloe tight. "At least you weren't hurt, Chloe." I cleaned up the broken glass. I cut my finger on a sharp piece. I bled a little. I did not cry. I learned that day. The truth does not matter if the story is already decided. The story was, Chloe is good. Harper is trouble. The invisible effort and the exit. I knew I could not win the love game. So I tried to win the achievement game. I thought if I worked hard enough, they would have to see me. Effort is visible. I hated high school. I hated being compared to Chloe. I decided to leave early. I researched the rules. I worked with the guidance counselor. I took summer and night classes. I studied constantly. I did it. I graduated at 17. A whole year early, I felt like a conqueror. I thought Dad would finally see me. They came to the ceremony. That night, we had a cake. No fuss. I waited. Dad looked at me. He had that small, critical frown. He said the words that burned the mountain down. Don't get cocky, Harper. The words were slow. They were loud in the quiet kitchen. This early graduation doesn't mean anything in the real world. Chloe's got the personality that'll take her places. You're smart, yes, but you're too serious. You're too quiet. You're too much of a loner. That's why you have to work harder, Harper. My mother nodded along. He's right, honey. You need to lighten up. My heart did not break. It turned to stone. I realized right then that nothing I built, nothing I achieved, would ever be enough. The problem was not the achievement. The problem was me. I moved out the day after my 19th birthday. I told them I was going early for college. It was a lie. I packed 2 suitcases. I had one old laptop that kept crashing. I had one promise I whispered in the driveway. I will never, ever need them again. I moved to California. I dropped out of law school after 2 semesters. I hated it. It was about old rules. I wanted to build something new. I did not tell them I dropped out. I knew the lecture I would get. I had paid for the semesters with 3 jobs. My money was my secret. I moved into a terrible, cold apartment. It smelled like mold. I was happy there. It was mine. That is where EcoPath Logistics began. On that slow, dying laptop. The first 2 years were just survival. I ate a ramen. I wore the same 3 shirts. I worked 20 hours a day. My body hurt. My mind was sharp. I was too busy building the foundation to feel lonely. When I talked to my parents, I kept it vague. Just working on some projects. They did not ask about the projects. They just asked about Chloe. Chloe is doing great. She just got a promotion. I sent gifts anyway. Wine, flowers, gift cards. It was a hopeful reflex. The responses were always the same. Silence. Until the phone call where Mom explained the silence. She would say, "You're so independent, Harper. We didn't think you cared about thank you notes. We thought you were above all that stuff." It was not independence. It was survival. I cared deeply. I wanted a simple thank you. I finally stopped sending things last year. The silence stayed the same. The difference was, my money stayed in my bank account. My heart stopped hoping. The stone was complete. The final cut. The text message from Chloe about the small dinner was the final cut. It was the proof that the stone heart was necessary. They had actively decided to remove me from Mom's milestone birthday. They did it so the table could be perfect. The perfect family picture does not have the problem child in it. I was 32 years old. I ran a multi-million-dollar company. I was respected by hundreds of people, but I was not invited to dinner. They thought they could erase me, and I would just be quiet. They thought I was still that small girl cleaning up the broken vase. They were wrong. The uninvite was a calculated statement. You are not family. I looked at the laptop screen again. The numbers were massive. The company was successful. It was proof of the persistence my father dismissed. It was proof that character, not personality, is the foundation. I closed the laptop. The cold steel anger was back. I would not fight for a seat at their table. I would just show up and show them the table was too small for the life I had built. The fight would not be with words. It would be with my presence. I knew what I had to do. I had to see the lie. I had to see the party. The family lie was about to bleed into my professional life, and that was unacceptable. The confrontation was waiting. The silence was over. I run my life on schedule. Friday morning is usually the same. Treadmill, black coffee, financial news. I do not look at social media. Social media is noise. It is the opposite of focus. This Friday, I broke the rule. Maybe the text message from Chloe had unsettled me. Maybe I wanted proof. Maybe a small, angry part of me knew they were lying. I was finishing my second cup of coffee. I picked up my phone. I opened the Instagram app. The knife in the feed, the photo was at the top of my feed. It was a post from my cousin, Lydia. Lydia is simple. She means no harm. She is just clumsy with the truth. She had accidentally tagged me in a group story. I stared at the picture. The lie was massive. It was covered in gold paint. Chloe had said the birthday was going to be small. She had said it was family only. The picture showed a huge, long table. It was set for 12 people. Gold balloons floated near the ceiling. A giant banner hung on the wall. "Happy 60th, Mom!" This was not small. This was a statement. This was a party. Lydia's caption cut deep. "Best family ever." best family, the family that actively excluded me. They built a picture-perfect memory and made sure I was not in the frame. I felt the pain again. It was a sharp, quick ache behind my ribs. It was betrayal, not just simple rejection. Betrayal is calculated. They did not just forget me, they lied. Chloe wrote the lie directly to my phone. She used the words, family only, to make sure I knew I was being excluded from the core group. She did that while looking at the gold balloons and the 12 place settings. The simple, cold anger returned. My anger is quiet. It is energy I can use. I use it to solve problems. The problem here was not my hurt feelings. The problem was their easy dishonesty. They thought they could do this to me and I would just take it. I looked closer at the photo. I counted the heads. 12 people, aunts, uncles, cousins, my parents, Chloe, and one man. The man sitting right next to Chloe. The wrong place. I knew the man instantly, Ethan Reed. I had seen him 100 times on video calls. I had approved his hiring package personally. He was my senior analyst. He ran all the complex data modeling for our East Coast operations. He was a quiet guy. Brilliant mind, kind eyes. He was vital to EcoPath. He was sitting at the table. He was smiling politely. He was part of the best family ever picture. He was Chloe's boyfriend. My focus snapped. The betrayal was no longer just personal. It had crossed a line. It had bled into my professional life. Ethan did not know. He saw Harper Blake, CEO of EcoPath Logistics. He did not know Harper Blake, the dropout, the family disappointment from Atlanta. He was sitting at the table that had been built without me. He was there because of Chloe's charm and my family's deception. A series of simple questions ran through my mind. Did he know my mother was his boss's mother? No. Did he know Chloe lied to me? Probably not. Was he now seeing how easily my family dismissed me? That was the danger. The problem was no longer just my heart. The problem was my authority. If my family could treat me like a disposable stranger, that could hurt my authority in my own company. If Ethan saw me meekly accepting the exclusion, it would weaken my position. My company is the fortress I built to keep the old pain out. I needed to protect the fortress. Ethan's presence at that table made the exclusion feel like an attack on my entire life. They did not just ban me from dinner. They banned me from their version of reality, a version that now included a key member of my team. My sister, Chloe, was using the life I left behind, my family, their praise, their small-town respect, to impress a high-value man from my own company. She was using my old life to undermine my new one. This was an executive problem. It demanded an executive solution. The executive decision, I closed the Instagram app. I did not text. I did not call. I had already learned the lesson. Do not argue with the lie. Confront the liar. I walked straight to my laptop. I did not hesitate. I opened the airline website. Seattle to Atlanta. The flight was leaving in 3 hours. It was first class. I did not look at the price. My dignity was not a budget item. I booked it. Done. My intention was not revenge. My intention was clarity. I had to walk into that room. I had to see their faces when they realized the dropout was sitting on top of the corporate world they despised. I had to see Chloe's face when her lie collapsed. And most importantly, I had to see Ethan Reed and let him see the truth. I had to demonstrate, simply and directly, that I was not a ghost. I was not absent because I was too busy being independent. I was absent because I was deliberately excluded, and I was now present because their exclusion was a lie. The action was simple. Show up. Be seen. Leave. No long speeches, no tears, no begging. I called my head of operations. I told him I was leaving immediately for an emergency personal weekend. He trusted me. Preparing for the stage, I walked into my closet. I picked the right outfit. It had to be simple. It had to be powerful. It had to be me. I chose a charcoal gray suit jacket. It was custom made. It looked serious. I chose a plain black silk shell and sharp black trousers. I put on my best black leather heels. They are not comfortable. They make me stand straighter. They make me feel solid. I looked in the mirror. I did not see the 17-year-old girl afraid of her father's disappointment. I saw the CEO. I saw the woman who built the company on sheer willpower. I packed a small overnight bag. I booked a room at a fancy hotel downtown. I was not going to stay at their house. I was going to be an observer. The flight was long. I sat in my comfortable seat. I rehearsed the moment in my mind. The goal was to reclaim my narrative. The goal was to establish the truth of my power. I landed in Atlanta. It was humid. It was the history I ran from. I took a car straight from the airport to the restaurant, Patterson on the Lake. The car dropped me off right at the front door. It was exactly 7:10 p.m., perfect timing. The party would be settled. The laughter would be easy. I took a deep breath. I adjusted my jacket one last time. I walked toward the entrance. I was ready to step onto their stage. I was ready to break their beautiful, dishonest picture. I was coming for the truth. I was on the plane now. The engines were loud. The noise was constant. I liked the noise. It blocked out the smaller, angrier noise inside my head. I sat in the first-class seat. It was big. It was comfortable. The flight attendant called me Ms. Blake and treated me with respect. That respect felt real. It was something I had bought with my own work. I looked out the window. Seattle was shrinking below me. The city where I built my name. The city where my company had power. I was leaving my empire for a quick, brutal family visit. The decision to fly was fast. It was an executive decision. It was logical. It was not about love. It was not about wanting to hug my mother. It was about data. The data point was Chloe's text. Family only. Don't take it personally. The image on Instagram was the counter-evidence. 12 place settings. Gold balloons. A big party. The data showed a lie. A lie demands an answer. I had spent my whole life being quiet. I had spent years sending gifts into the silence. I had waited for them to notice. They never did. They just kept talking over me. They kept writing my story as a failure. The plane climbed higher. I closed my eyes. I focused on the feeling of the suit jacket. It was heavy. It was solid. It was my armor. I was not flying home for revenge. Revenge is a low-level operation. I was flying home for documentation. When I was little, I was a victim. A victim has to take the blame. A victim has to clean up the broken glass. I was not that girl anymore. I was flying back as a witness. A witness records the truth. A witness cannot be argued with. The price of silence. I thought about my father's words at graduation. You're too serious. Chloe's got the personality. He always thought that my work was a weakness. He thought my quiet focus meant I lacked heart. He thought I was running from something. I was running toward something. I was running toward a life where I could not be dismissed. The flight attendant came by and offered me a drink. I took water. I did not want anything to dull the edges of my focus. The lie this time was the worst one. It was the most calculating. It said, "You are not family." It hurt more than the hand-me-downs. It hurt more than the gift card instead of the laptop. Those things were neglect. This was intentional erasure. They had actively decided to remove me from Mom's milestone birthday. They did it so the table could be perfect. The perfect family picture does not have the problem child in it. I realized then that they did not see me as family. They saw me as a threat. My success threatened Chloe's golden status. My independence threatened my mother's need to be needed. My quiet confidence threatened my father's simple view of the world. I was living proof that his assessment of me, the loner, the serious one, was wrong. They had tried to remove the threat by pretending it did not exist, but I did exist. I was sitting on a plane I paid for. I was going to a city where I owned assets. I had built myself from the ground up. I was solid, the boundary line. The main problem was Ethan Reed. His presence was the trigger. If it had just been Chloe and Mom and Dad, I probably would have sent an angry text and deleted the pictures. I would have let the pain settle back into the usual scar tissue. But Ethan was mine. He was a senior analyst at EcoPath. He was essential to my team. His presence at that table meant the family drama had crossed the boundary line. It was no longer just family pain. It was a professional threat. If Ethan saw me as the rejected sister, the person they laughed at, that impression could hurt my authority. It could weaken my position. It could create a lack of respect in my own company. My company is everything. It is the fortress I built to keep the old pain out. I needed to protect the fortress. I needed to show Ethan Reed simply and clearly who I was. I needed him to understand that the woman they tried to exclude was his boss, the one who signs his check, the source of his career. Chloe was using him. She was dating him because he was successful. She was using him as a prop in her perfect life. Or maybe she knew I hired a brilliant man named Ethan Reed. Maybe she targeted him. I decided not to overthink it. It did not matter if Chloe knew. It only mattered what Ethan saw tonight. He needed to see the woman who walked into a room full of people who hated her and did not flinch. He needed to see a leader, not a victim. I repeated the simple goal to myself, like a mantra. Show up. Be seen. Leave. I will not engage. I will not argue. I will not cry. I would walk in. I would stand tall. I would let my presence do the talking. The Alaskan cruise, I thought about the gift. The Alaskan cruise, I could have bought them a car. I could have paid off their mortgage. The money was not the point. The gift had to be a statement. I remembered when I was 12. Mom was watching a travel show. She sighed. Oh, that's beautiful. The Northern Lights? I'll never see those, of course. That's for rich people. I remembered it. I remembered everything. I remembered her favorite lemon square recipe. The cruise was not an apology. It was not a bribe. The cruise was a subtle, final piece of evidence. It showed them that the quiet, serious daughter who read books actually saw them. She remembered their simple, whispered dreams. It showed them that the girl they called a loner cared more deeply than the girl they called charming. It was the ultimate statement of unconditional love and financial power. I remembered her small dream from 20 years ago, and I had the power to buy it for her without thinking twice. That would hurt them more than an expensive handbag. It would force them to see the depth of my quiet affection and the size of my success. I confirmed the arrangements with my personal assistant via text. The cruise voucher was in a thick envelope. It was with the hostess at the restaurant. I had instructed the hostess not to give it to them until I had left. I did not want Mom to open it in front of me. I did not want the thanks. Arrival: the plane landed roughly in Atlanta. I felt the familiar humidity immediately. It was heavy. It was home. I walked off the plane. I moved fast through the airport. My heels clicked. It was the sound of purpose. I felt different being back here. 10 years ago, I would have felt small. Now I felt tall. I felt solid. I called the car service. I gave them the restaurant name, Patterson on the Lake. The car was quiet. The city lights of Atlanta rushed past. It was beautiful, but it was not mine. Seattle was mine. I looked in the car mirror. My face was tired. My eyes were clear. There were no tears. I rehearsed the moment one last time. The door opens. The laughter stops. Mom's face goes white. Chloe sneers. I stand at the threshold. I imagined their easy, false unity shattered by my simple, powerful presence. I imagined the uncomfortable silence. This was not a social visit. This was a business meeting, the most important one of my life. The car slowed. We were here. The restaurant was bright and old-fashioned. It smelled like rich food and cheap secrets. I took the handle of the door. My fingers were steady. The victim was gone. The witness was ready. I stepped out onto the damp pavement. I was wearing the suit I had earned. I was standing in the city I had left. I was about to walk into the room they built without me. I did not pause. I walked straight toward the main entrance. My heart was not pounding. It was cold. It was calm. It was ready. The car left me at the front door of Patterson on the Lake. The building was big. It was old brick. It looked solid and expensive. It felt like the perfect place for a lie. I walked straight in. The air inside was cool. It smelled like rich food and starched linen. I went to the hostess stand. The woman there was young. She looked tired. "Private party?" she asked me. "Blake family," I said. My voice was steady. It did not shake. Her eyes went wide. She frowned a little. She had the list. She knew I was not on it. "Oh, yes, ma'am. They're in the garden room," she whispered. She spoke quietly, like I was a secret she was trying to hide. "Past the bar. I can show you." "Thank you," I said. I followed her. She walked quickly, nervous to be caught with me. We walked past the main dining room. The people there were eating quietly. Then we went down a hallway. The air felt heavy here. I heard the noise before I saw the door. It was laughter. It was loud. It was sharp. It was the sound of 12 people enjoying themselves, completely relaxed. It was the sound of a family that felt safe. They felt safe because they thought the problem was 1,000 miles away. They thought they had fixed their picture by taking me out of it. The sound hurt. It felt easy for them. Too easy. The hostess stopped at a heavy glass door. She stepped back quickly. She disappeared. She ran from the tension. I stood there alone. My hand reached for the cold metal handle. This was the moment. My heart was slow and heavy. It felt like a clock ticking down to 0. I opened the door. I pushed it wide. I walked in. I stood at the threshold. The stop, the laughter died instantly. It was immediate. It was total. The music from the restaurant speakers was suddenly loud. Everything else stopped. I saw the table. It was exactly as the photo showed. Long, 12 people, gold balloons. The banner, "Happy 60th, Mom." It was beautiful. It was a beautiful lie. Everyone was looking at me. They were frozen. It was a very expensive, frozen picture of a dishonest family. My family was there. Mom, Dad, Chloe, my aunt, my uncle Lydia, and Ethan Reed. Forks froze. My aunt's hand was halfway to her mouth. She was holding a piece of lettuce. Conversation stopped. My uncle was leaning in to talk to Dad. His mouth was open. The word was gone. I stood there. I smiled. It was a tight, controlled smile. It was the smile I use when I close a difficult business deal. It was not warm. It was not scared. It was firm. I looked at my mother first. Mom. She looked at me with pure, panicked surprise. Her smile had been big, but it flickered and went out. Dad was next to her. He was frowning instantly. He looked annoyed. He looked at me like I was a costly, unexpected problem. Chloe was sitting opposite Mom. Next to her was Ethan Reed. Chloe did not panic. She was a professional liar. Her face went tight for a split second. Then she recovered. She pushed a quick, cold smirk onto her lips. It was a challenge. She put her wine glass down on the table. The crystal clinked. She was the first to speak. Her voice was loud. It was meant to dominate the room. Wow, Harper. You actually came. She made it sound like I was pathetic for showing up, like I had ruined her perfect scene. I kept my smile fixed. I did not move forward. I stayed in the doorway. It's Mom's 60th, I said. My voice was quiet. It was steady. Of course I came. Happy birthday, Mom. I kept my eyes on my mother. I was ignoring Chloe's tone. Mom gripped her linen napkin. She had to manage the lie. Harper, honey, we just thought you were so busy, she stammered. Her voice cracked. With the company and all. It was just going to be small. We didn't want you to have to fly all the way out here. She looked trapped. She looked like she knew she was lying. Too busy for my own mother's birthday? I asked. I made the question simple. I made it polite. I made it deadly. Silence. The silence was heavy. The family had to choose. My Aunt Carol coughed into her fist. Uncle Tom looked down at his plate. They were all choosing the lie. They were choosing Chloe. Dad sighed heavily. He looked ready to tell me I was being dramatic. Chloe jumped back in. She had to regain control. She leaned back in her chair. She crossed her arms. She looked at me with pure dismissal. We didn't think corporate royalty would want to slum it with us, Harper, she said. She meant it as a joke. She meant it to make me the butt of the joke, to make me the outsider. My Aunt Carol and Uncle Tom forced weak, nervous laughs. They were obeying the favorite child. Oh, that's right, Harper, Aunt Carol said, her voice too high. You're far too fancy for us now, aren't you? The laughter was bad. It was mean. It was directed at me. I stood there and let it wash over me. It felt like cold water. It hurt, but it cleaned me. This was the peak of the victimization. They were laughing at my success. They were mocking the life I built. They were proving that nothing had changed. They were still the family that saw me as the problem. I did not move. I did not change my expression. I held the smile. Then I looked at Ethan Reed. The observer Ethan was sitting right next to Chloe. He was not laughing. His face was completely still. He had not moved since I walked in. His eyes were wide. He was looking at Chloe. Then he looked at me. I could see the gears turning in his head. He was connecting the dots. Harper Blake, the CEO. Harper Blake, the family joke. He was watching his boss get verbally slapped down by her younger sister. He was watching the family he was dating into treat the woman who paid his salary like trash. He shifted in his seat. It was a tiny move. It was the movement of a man who was deeply uncomfortable. A man who was processing a major conflict. He had been brought here under false pretenses. He was sitting with people who were casually mocking the person he respected most professionally. He was silent. He did not speak, but his eyes were full of something I recognized. Shame. He was ashamed of Chloe. He was ashamed of my family. He was ashamed to be part of the laughter. Chloe leaned in toward him, still smiling her mean smile. She wanted him to laugh too. She wanted his validation. He did not look at her. He kept his eyes on me. He saw the cold calm in my expression. He saw the lack of panic. He saw the CEO facing a crisis. He saw the truth. The room went silent again. The forced laughter died out. Everyone was waiting for me to react. To yell, to cry, to leave in a huff. To prove them right, I did not move. I did not speak. I let the silence draw tight. I let the pressure build. I looked directly at Ethan Reed. I made eye contact. I showed him, I am here. I am solid. I am the power in this room, even if they don't know it. I did not need to ask him for help. I just needed to stand there and let him decide which truth he believed. He made his decision. I saw it in the slight tightening of his jaw. He looked away from me. He looked straight at Chloe. The moment was perfect. The silence was absolute. The family had peaked in their cruelty. The table was set for the reversal. The truth was about to be spoken by the last person they expected. The forced laughter stopped quickly. It sounded weak. It sounded cheap. My aunt and uncle looked down. They were waiting for me to leave so they could return to the lie. I stood there. I did not move. I did not give them what they wanted. My eyes were on Ethan Reed. He was sitting next to Chloe. He was trapped between two worlds. The simple world of my dysfunctional family and the complex world of my successful company. He was the smartest man at that table. He had to be connecting the dots. Harper Blake, the dropout. Harper Blake, the CEO. The family who hates her. The woman who signs my check. He shifted in his seat. His jaw was tight. He was making a choice. He looked straight at Chloe. His eyes were cold. His voice was flat. It was professional. It was the voice he used in the boardroom, not at a birthday party. He spoke. That's funny, Chloe. The sound of his voice startled everyone. It cut through the air. They were surprised he spoke at all. Guests do not challenge the family. He paused just long enough for the sound of his voice to land. He looked at her tight, superior smile. Then he delivered the truth. Because your corporate royalty signs my paycheck. The silence of the lie, the room went dead quiet. This silence was shock. It was the sound of a carefully built structure falling down. Chloe's hand froze. Her wine glass stopped halfway to her lips. She did not blink. Her smile was gone. Dad blinked slowly. He frowned harder. He looked at Ethan. Then he looked at me. His brain was struggling to make the connection. The dropout is talking about money. This strange man is involved. Mom made a small, choked noise in her throat. She dropped the linen napkin. Ethan did not look at me. He looked straight at the table. He was talking to the whole family. He was delivering the full, simple truth. What did you just say, Ethan? Chloe finally whispered. Her voice was thin. It was a failure of a voice. He ignored her fear. He spoke calmly. He was very clear. Harper is my boss. He paused. He let that simple, shocking statement hang in the air. She is the founder and CEO of EcoPath Logistics. She built it from nothing. I moved across the country to work for her. She is the reason I am financially secure. She is the reason I am sitting here right now. He was giving them all the details. He was leaving no room for misunderstanding. The dropout was the boss. The loner was the founder. The person they thought was too quiet was running a major company. I stood at the door. I said nothing. Ethan was fighting my fight. He was an objective witness. His words were cleaner than mine could ever be. Internally, I felt a deep, slow wave of relief wash over me. It was not a feeling of triumph. It was a feeling of weightlessness. The stone I had been carrying was finally floating away. Someone saw the full picture. I looked at my parents. They were statues. Dad was struggling. He had held onto the dropout narrative for so long. The proof was gone. The narrative was broken. Mom looked sick. She was staring at her plate. She was looking at the truth she had avoided for a decade. The realization, I chose the lie, and I missed my daughter's massive success. The moral judgment and goodbye Ethan was not finished. He took a sip of water. He looked directly at Dad. He made it personal. He brought in the moral judgment. She's one of the smartest people I've ever worked for, Mr. Blake. She runs her company with honesty. He spoke slowly. He was contrasting my character with their behavior. You all should be proud of her. That line hurt them the most. It was not about money. It was about shame. It was a judgment delivered by a successful stranger, a man they had been trying to impress, who now told them they had failed me. Chloe's face completely drained. She had lost control of the room. The perfect picture was ruined by the simple, undeniable truth. I cut her off. My voice was still quiet. It was flat. It held all the authority of the CEO. I didn't say a word, Chloe. She sank back down into her chair. Dad finally looked up at me. His eyes were full of a lost opportunity. He saw the suit. He saw the power. He saw his mistake. I had what I needed. The victory was total. I did not need to stay. I straightened my jacket again. It was professional. I smiled at my mother. It was the smile of forgiveness, but also separation. Mom, happy birthday, I said. I left a little something for you with the hostess. What is it, Harper? She asked. Her voice was weak. An Alaskan cruise, I told her. You mentioned it once when I was 12. I remembered. I did not wait for her to process the gift. I turned toward the door. I walked past the bar. I walked out of the garden room. I did not look back. As I walked out, I heard Ethan say one last thing. His voice was firm. Excuse me, Chloe, I think I'll take a minute outside. He was choosing my reality over theirs. I walked into the humid night. The feeling was not triumph. It was peace. I had finally closed a chapter. I walked out of the garden room. I did not run. I just walked. My heels clicked on the marble floor. It was the sound of a finish line. The hallway was quiet again. The music from the restaurant seemed farther away. I felt the humid Atlanta air hit me first. I felt heavy, but I felt clean. The poison was out. I walked past the bar. I needed to see the hostess. I had a final task. I saw her standing at the front. She looked up. She was waiting for the drama. I smiled at her gently. The envelope, please, I said. She handed me the thick white envelope with the cruise tickets. Thank you, I said. I need you to wait 10 minutes. Then please give this to my mother, Mrs. Blake, at the table. Please tell her it's a gift from me. Do not tell her what is inside. 10 minutes. Yes, ma'am, she whispered. I nodded. I knew I needed to be long gone before Mom opened that card. I did not want the tears or the false apology prompted by the expensive gift. I wanted the gift to be a silent, powerful fact. I put my hands into the pockets of my suit jacket. I walked toward the front entrance. The brief encounter as I reached the door, I heard fast footsteps behind me. It was Ethan Reed. He stopped a few feet away from me. He looked uncomfortable. He looked like he had just escaped a bad situation. He was silent. He did not need to apologize for Chloe. I did not need him to. I turned to him. I looked him straight in the eye. I kept my face plain. "Thank you, Ethan," I said. My voice was very low. "Harper," he started. His voice was rough. I had no idea. "I am so sorry." I held up my hand. A simple stopping motion. "It's fine," I said. "It is not your fight. It is finished now. You did your job tonight. You told the truth." He nodded slowly. "I respect you, Harper. I respect what you built. I respect your silence back there. That was the key." He saw the silence. He saw the composure. He saw the strength. He did not see the victim. He saw the leader. "I'll see you Monday," I said. It was professional. "Yes, Monday," he replied. He looked like he was ready to get back to work. Ready to leave the emotional mess behind? I gave him a small, genuine smile. "Get some rest, Ethan, and reevaluate your dating choices." He almost laughed. A real quick sound. Already done. I did not ask about Chloe. I did not need to. The relationship was over. Ethan was too honest for the lies of my family. I turned and walked out the door. I left him standing there in the hallway. He was the silent witness. He was the proof that my life was real. The long drive to peace, the car service was waiting for me. I got into the back seat. I did not look at the restaurant. The car pulled away. I felt my body finally start to relax. The tension was seeping out of my shoulders. I realized what I had won. I had not won an apology. I had won my peace. I realized that every single thing they had mocked me for was the source of my power. Too serious? That built the company. Too quiet? That allowed me to focus. Too much of a loner? That meant I relied on no one. My father said I did not have the personality. He was wrong. I had character. I thought about Chloe's face. The draining color. She lost the audience, the family, and the prop, Ethan. She was left with nothing but her lie. I felt a distant, cold pity. She was still trying to please Mom and Dad. I had flown away from that cage years ago. The car stopped at the hotel. I checked in. The clerk saw power. I went up to the room. I stood by the window. I took off my suit jacket. I looked out at the lights of Atlanta. This city was the home of my pain. But the view from this room, the quiet, expensive silence, it was all mine. I took a shower. The hot water felt good. It washed away the dust of the family drama. I sat on the edge of the bed. I finally let myself feel it. The truth. I did not need their love. I needed to know that the pain of the past was truly over. It was over now. The silence that night in the hotel room was not the old, painful silence of neglect. It was a new silence. It was the sound of peace. I was not the victim anymore. I was the survivor. The old life was closed. The new one was quiet and clear. I flew back to Seattle early the next morning. The flight home was full of quiet exhaustion. The task was done. I felt heavy, but I felt free. I landed in Seattle. I went straight to my apartment. I went straight to my desk. Monday morning felt good. It felt familiar. My office is my fortress. The problems here are logical. They have solutions. I focused on my work. I read financial reports. I held a video call with my team. Everything was normal. I did not mention the trip, the professional validation. My first personal communication came from Ethan Reed. It was an email at 10 a.m. The subject line was simply, "Monday follow-up." I opened it. The email was short. It was very simple. "Harper, I wanted to confirm that Chloe and I are done. I will be handling the transition respectfully. For what it's worth, I am proud to work for you. And I am sorry for what you have had to survive. See you in the team meeting on Wednesday. Ethan." I read it 3 times. It was the highest form of validation. He confirmed he left Chloe. He confirmed he was choosing the path of honesty over the path of charm. The key lines were simple. "I am proud to work for you. I am sorry for what you have had to survive." He saw the years of quiet struggle. He saw the strength it took to build my life while carrying that shame. I did not reply. I forwarded the email to my personal archives. It was a receipt for my self-worth. The crumbs of truth. The rest of the day was silent. I was waiting for the phone to ring. The silence was different now. Before it was neglect. Now the silence was consequence. They were sitting in their small lives, grappling with the fact that they had rejected a successful daughter. I was finishing my last call at 7:43 p.m. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text message from Mom. I stood up. I walked to the window. I took a deep breath. I opened the message. It was exactly as simple and raw as I needed it to be. "I don't deserve the gift, Harper. But thank you. You made me feel seen." That was all. Not 2 paragraphs. Not an essay. Not an apology for the lie. Just one sentence that held the entire truth of my childhood. "You made me feel seen." My heart felt like it opened up slightly. The child in me was desperate for that simple feeling. She was admitting that she had not seen me before. She was admitting that the daughter who was quiet, who was serious, who was reading books, was the one who was truly watching her. The daughter who remembered her wish from 20 years ago. The cruise was a gift of memory. I realized what had happened. My simple, quiet, powerful action had forced her to drop her own defense. She was worried about the painful truth that she had rejected her own child. The rest of the family stayed quiet. Chloe was probably furious. She had lost her narrative. Dad was probably quiet. He was forced to confront the persistence that built an empire. I did not text Mom back immediately. I did not want her to think the simple sentence was enough to erase 2 decades of pain. It was a beautiful first step, but it was her step. I had to let her stand on it alone. The new boundary, I went to the kitchen and made myself a simple dinner. I ate it slowly. I was calm. I was solid. The anger was gone. It was replaced by a quiet power. I had changed the script. I knew that things would never be simple with them. But the most important truth was established. I do not need them. I proved it to myself, and I proved it to them. I would never chase them again. The boundary was set. If they wanted a relationship with the successful, clean, strong woman I had become, they had to cross the line into my world. They had to speak the truth. The text from Mom was the first crumb of truth. It was a foundation. I could build something small and simple on that foundation. Something real. I finally replied to her message. My reply was simple. It was direct. It was honest. I'm glad you saw it, Mom. I put my phone down. I finished my soup. The truth had been delivered. Now we just had to live with it. I was safe here. I was successful here. And now I was finally seen. Months passed after I flew back to Seattle. Time moved quickly. It was quiet. The silence was the most important thing. It was the silence of respectful distance. I held the boundary. I knew if I called, they would assume everything was fine. I would not let them. The only communication was practical. Short, simple text messages. Did the cruise tickets arrive? Yes, they did. Thank you. No emotional words. The postcard and the visit in April, they took the Alaskan cruise. I saw a few pictures on Chloe's social media. Mom and Dad looked happy. When they got back, a postcard arrived. It was a picture of the Northern Lights. Mom's writing was simple. The lights were beautiful, Harper. Thank you. We are talking. Love, Mom. We are talking. That simple sentence meant the lie was too big to ignore. The truth had forced them to face each other. Chloe never sent anything. She unfollowed me on social media. She deleted the pictures. I accepted that. My peace did not depend on her. 3 months later, an email came from Mom. Subject: Visit. She wrote, I would like to come to Seattle, Harper. I need to see your life. I understand if you say no. I will fly myself. She did not assume. She asked for my permission. That was a big change. I wrote back, Yes, Mom. You can stay at the hotel downtown. I will clear my Friday afternoon for you. I met her at the hotel. She looked older. She looked tired. We drove to my apartment. I let the silence be gentle. The view from the fortress. When we got to my apartment, she walked in slowly. She stopped at the window. The view over the Puget Sound was massive. It was expensive. She stood there for a long time. She just whispered 2 simple words. It's beautiful. She was talking about the life, the massive, beautiful life I had built from the 2 suitcases. The life she thought I was too quiet to build. I walked up beside her. So are you, Mom, I said. She looked at me. Her eyes were wet this time. They were happy tears. I'm sorry, Harper, she whispered. It was the first time. It was a simple, short apology. I know, Mom, I said. I did not say I forgive you. I just said I knew. The lemon squares and peace. We spent the weekend simply. On Saturday, we baked. We baked her favorite lemon squares. We used the same recipe. The one from when we were broke. The kitchen was warm. The scent of lemon zest filled the apartment. We did not talk about business. We did not talk about Chloe. We talked about the recipe. Later that day, we sat on the couch. We ate the warm squares. They were perfect. She talked about her own fear. She said she was afraid of my father. She said she was afraid of the world. Chloe was easy. Chloe was charming. You scared me, Harper, she admitted. I always thought you were running from me, not running toward something. It was not a justification. It was an explanation. It was the truth. I understood it. My mother was fearful. She was not cruel. She was just weak. She had chosen the easy path. Her rejection was never personal. It was her own failure to be brave. I accepted the explanation. The truth had set us both free. I realized the closure I was looking for was not an apology that would fix the past. It was the acceptance that the past could not be fixed. The pain was real, but the power of the pain was gone. When Mom left on Sunday, I drove her to the airport. The goodbye was quiet. It was comfortable. She hugged me at the curb. It was a real hug. Call me next week, Harper, she said. I will, Mom, I replied. I watched her walk into the terminal. I did not feel the familiar stab of abandonment. I felt peace. I was no longer fighting for a seat at her table. I had invited her to mine. I had shown her the lemon squares of my childhood and the view of my success. I drove back home. The air felt light. The noise was gone. I was finally the author of my own story. I flew home that day with a new quiet inside me. The years of carrying the past were over. The fight was done. The victory was silent. The relationship with my mother is still fragile. We text now. Simple things. Did you watch that documentary? The weather is cold. No heavy feelings. No drama. It is a new foundation. It is small. It is honest. I know the old ways might return. I know Chloe will always be the golden child in her own mind. Dad might never fully understand the power I have. That is okay. Their story is their burden. My story is different now. I realize that the moment I walked into that restaurant, I was not fighting to be invited to their table. I was fighting to prove I did not need it. I did not win the fight with loud words. I won with persistence. I won with the quiet proof of the company I built. The company they called a silly little startup. The truth is simple. I was never the failure. I was just the foundation they never noticed. I was the rock they ignored. Now they see the skyscraper that was built on top of that rock. My absence was my greatest strength. It gave me the space to become everything they said I could not be. I am Harper Blake. I am 32 years old. I am a CEO. I am a survivor. And I am finally seen. If you've ever been left out, only to rise higher than they imagined, hit like, subscribe, and comment the word seen, because the quiet ones aren't gone. They're just building.